Look at your honey. Clear as glass? That might be the problem. If the pollen's been stripped out, the origin is untraceable. And according to Food Safety News, that's exactly what happens in most mass-market jars. The FDA has even said ultra-filtered honey isn't honey. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Now I'll show you how labels like pure, organic, and even manuka can mask heavy heating and ultrafiltration. Stay with me for the simple home checks: crystallization texture, cloudiness, the ribbon test that expose the trick, and the sourcing playbook that gets you the real raw stuff from transparent beekeepers. If pure meant anything, you wouldn't need a microscope to find pollen. Your jar reads clean. It eats flat. That disconnect is the tell. Here's the gap. You hear pure, like organic, even manuka, and you map that to raw, hive-warm, minimally touched. The industry hears those same words and runs a different play. Heat it, move it, polish it. The goal isn't flavor, it's uniformity. A shelf that looks identical in Phoenix and Portland with zero haze and zero questions. The regulatory trap makes it easy. In the US, there's no enforced national identity standard for honey. That means a label can say pure even if the product took a hot bath and a pressure wash on its way to the bottle. Pure becomes a costume. Legally safe, nutritionally vague. Walk the workflow. Tanks warm honey above roughly hive temperature, around the mid-90s Fahrenheit, to thin it out. Warmer honey pumps faster, bottles faster, then come the filters. First, the fine screens that catch wax and bee bits. Often the mesh gets tighter. In some plants, ultrafiltration steps in, high pressure through microscale media, to strip out particles you can't see, including pollen. The result glides through a filler-like syrup. It also tastes like it. Pulling back the curtain, Food Safety News reported widespread pollen removal in mass-market honey. And the FDA's guidance says honey that's been ultra-filtered, pollen removed, doesn't meet the definition of honey. Here's the kicker. Guidance without enforcement is theater. No routine pollen checks. No identity standard with teeth. So the clean jars keep coming. It looks like a crystal clear lake, but the fish are gone. Pollen, enzymes, propolis, netted out. You're left with sugar water's cousin wearing a premium label. It will look great in a squeeze bear, it won't carry a sense of place. Why does pollen matter? It's the origin fingerprint. Melisoplenology, pollen analysis, is how scientists confirm where honey came from and what flowers fed it. Keep the pollen and you can map a jar to regions and plants. Strip it, and every geographic claim is a wish. No pollen means no traceability, which means you can't verify the story or screen out risky supply chains. For you, that means you lose the only hard evidence that the jar holds what the front label promises. International standards back this up. The Codex model says don't remove pollen except when you must to get rid of foreign matter. Retain the pollen. Keep the identity. Our market shrugs and sells clarity instead. Here's where it gets tricky. Even the labels you trust can ride the processing train. USDA Organic? That certifies how the bees and land are managed, not bottling heat. New Zealand Manuka? The grading is about certain compounds, not whether the packer cranked the temperature or ran it through a tight filter. You can get a famous name and still lose the very particles that prove the claim. So the premium jar reads clean, but eats flat, because the volatile aromas got cooked down, and the micro bits that carry complexity got filtered away. This is how you standardize a wild product until every spoonful feels the same, and strangely empty. The real problem is that pure has been hollowed out. It's a marketing surface, not a guarantee of raw handling or pollen retention. Without pollen and process disclosure, you're buying a style, not a source. Now, let's talk about the sensory and at-home checks that expose the trick, and the sourcing playbook that beats it. You'll use texture, cloudiness, and aroma to separate real from nice looking. Then rebuild your shopping list around provenance that holds up when you actually taste it. Your kitchen can outsmart a factory line. No lab coat. Just a spoon and 30 seconds of focus. Here's the goal. You're going to separate truly raw honey from heated, filtered showpieces using your senses. No gadgets, no myths. We're reading texture, clarity, flow, and scent. The stuff processing can't fake without leaving fingerprints. But here's where it gets tricky. Real honey doesn't always match the postcard in your head. Some varietals stay liquid for a long time. Others set up fast. Storage temp changes behavior too. So we don't rely on one tell. We stack signals until the story is obvious. Start with crystallization. Honey is a supersaturated mix of glucose and fructose. When glucose can't stay dissolved, it drops out and forms crystals. That's natural. High glucose honeys, clover and alfalfa, tend to crystallize in weeks to a few months. High fructose honeys, acacia and tupelo, can hold liquid far longer. Heat tampers with this cycle by dissolving the tiny seeds crystals build on, which delays or distorts the set. What you want to see in a raw jar is fine, even crystals that spread like soft butter. Gritty chunks or a sharp line of crystals at the bottom with syrup on top can signal mishandling. On the flip side, suspiciously perfect clarity in a varietal that should crystallize is a red flag. Now look at cloudiness and flecks. Raw honey is rarely sterile looking. You should notice a soft haze and tiny specks, pollen, propolis, microwax, along with a few microbubbles from bottling. That faint texture is the point. It's the debris field of a living product. When a jar looks glass clear and flawless, that usually means ultra-fine filtration stripped the very particles that carry character and tell you where it came from. It looks like showroom glass. It eats like a shrug. Do the ribbon test. Room temperature matters. Around 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Drizzle a stream from a spoon back into the jar. Raw honey falls in slow, thick ribbons that mound for a beat before melting back. That brief pileup tells you the structure is intact. Enzymes and complex carbohydrates are still doing their job. Overheated honey behaves like thin syrup. It threads down, vanishes fast, and leaves no ridge. If your kitchen is cold, expect thicker flow. If it's warm, everything loosens, but the mound should still appear for a moment if the honey is truly raw. Now the aroma and flavor. Real honey carries layered florals tied to the plants that fed it. You should get a lift when you crack the lid. Something specific, not just sweet. On the tongue, it starts one way, shifts, and lingers. Maybe a hint of bitterness, a touch of acidity, a finish that hangs. Heat processing drives off those volatile notes, so processed honey smells faint and tastes one note. Sweet at the front, gone by the second chew. If you have to search for aroma, the story's already told. Guardrails matter. A cool pantry speeds crystallization. A warm cabinet slows it. Tupelo and acacia defy the quick-set rule while staying raw. One test can mislead. Together, they converge. Here's the payoff. Heating above hive temperature, roughly the mid-90s Fahrenheit, starts degrading enzymes and volatile compounds. Raw honey is kept at or below that, then minimally strained to remove bee parts and big wax bits. That's how you preserve pollen and the layered complexity that makes a spoonful feel alive. You can spot the fakes. Now let's rebuild your shopping list around provenance, not buzzwords. Labels you can trace, producers who disclose heat and filtration, and varietals that behave the way their flowers say they should. The clearest jar often has the murkiest backstory. No pollen means no origin. Story-free honey dressed for a showroom shelf. Buy from beekeepers and co-ops who tell you exactly how they handle heat and filtration. Ask for unheated, unpasteurized, minimally strained. You want tiny specks of pollen, proof of minimal processing. Store it right, cool, dark, pantry-level room temperature. Skip the fridge. It speeds crystallization and flattens texture. If crystals form, that's authenticity talking. Loosen it gently in a warm water bath, not a hot blast. Question everything you thought you knew about pure, and put your money behind people keeping bees, soil, and truth intact.